You're listening to Supply Chain Unlocked. Get exclusive insights from industry leaders on overcoming.
I'm just going to jump into this here. I had a whole script written out for you guys, and instead of just reading that to you, I'm just going to ad-lib this. I have Israel Maynard with DIGGS.pet, that's DIGGS .pet, COO and president of the company. Really good guy just to talk to, down to earth. And those are the people I really want on the show. People that are running small to medium businesses, understand the supply chain quite well and how the business and the supply chain support each other. We get into tariffs, some marketing, his extensive background in supply chain. So I'd compel you to stay to the end. And if I could ask a favor, give us a thumbs up and a little bit of feedback in the comments on what you thought of this episode and some of what we covered in supply chain or just business in general. With that said, let's get into it. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Welcome to Supply Chain Unlocked. I have Israel Maynard here with DIGGS.pet. I'm going to really just hand it over to him, starting with the origin story. Israel, tell us a little bit about how you've got to the COO position in this company, a little bit of your past, and then we'll move on to things like operational excellence and such.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Teddy. It's kind of funny. I say Teddy every day because that's my son's name. So, yeah. And actually, if I had a business card to hand you, it would include president and CEO now too, or COO, excuse me. So we've had a little progression there, which is it's exciting. Yeah. I got started in this space almost 25 years ago, I guess, initially working for a small business, pretty small business, a specialty food brand. And I wore kind of every hat you could imagine. And it just gave me an opportunity to get involved in all kinds of things with the contract manufacturer. So planning and purchasing and doing a little bit of forecasting and modeling to cleaning the bathrooms in our little warehouse and printing out an aging summary and chasing down, receivables and then hitting the road and selling with the founder, et cetera. So, but my focus was really on kind of the operational side, or, what at that point was a pretty simple supply chain, for that business. And, I was pretty good at it seemed, and the feedback I got, and I was enjoying it a lot. And so, I had an opportunity I saw a listing for a job with Bird and Snowboards, in the summer of 2000, spring of 2006. And it was for an Asian distribution center manager, a BWE, or a bonded warehouse for export, in Shenzhen, in just over the border from Hong Kong. I'd never been to Asia, especially, and not China, obviously. And I went for it. Put a resume in, made a couple phone calls, because Burlington, Vermont's a small town, and it didn't take me long to find somebody who was on the executive team that I knew socially, and went for it, got the job. And fourth day on the job, flew to Hong Kong and met my new boss, and the warehouse had just gone live that day, quite literally, with their first picks, and it had been an absolute disaster. And I took the baton from her, and away we went. And so my career in supply chain and sort of global operations and so on launched from there.
So you were in the warehouse. These are the stories I love.
Yeah.
This is the exact type of stuff that our audience likes to hear. Go ahead.
I spent a lot of time in warehouses. If I'm sitting in my basement right now, I'm working remotely. And if you saw my two little storage areas I've got in my finished basement, you'd see that I built some shelving that looks a lot like pallet racking. I modeled it after pallet racking. So yeah,
So you can actually turn a screwdriver and swing a hammer as well.
Yes, I can actually. I haven't gone so far as to have, reserve and active locations in my storage closets, but I do my way around a warehouse, and it really was from just jumping right into it. I mean, I was thrown in just right in the deep end, and worked with a 3PL, with the large one, with DHL Logistics. They'd actually bought Excel Logistics, for those out there that remember them, and the ink wasn't dry on that contract, on the engagement between Burton and Excel before the announcement that DHL had acquired them. So we worked with with DHL logistics on that project. And actually, I think they might have I left Burton 4 years ago. I think they might have just stopped in the last year with DHL. So multiple renewals, a really good relationship. It worked. It worked really well. It scaled up and down and all around from the original project that I did. We scaled up pretty rapidly, but that was before e-commerce, which is hard to believe. It was really for wholesale when wholesale was still dominating. So it was a totally different model in terms of what we built there. So anyway, yeah,
And that was Burton Snowboards.
yeah, that was Burton.
What was it like working for a snowboard company? That just seems way cool.
It was way cool. It was especially cool when I decided to learn how to ride because I grew up skiing. I grew up in Vermont, so I've been on snow since I was a little kid. And I like to joke that I was born in 74, so I'm older than snowboarding, and I'm older than Burton, which was founded in 77. So I had a little excuse that I never stood sideways until I got my job, but I quickly gave up skiing and started riding and never looked back. And then I've been snowboarding for the last 20 years. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun business. It was fun work. I mean, it's an iconic brand, right? And a classic American entrepreneurial story. I loved working for Jake. I got to know Jake decently, and he was a wonderful guy. It's certainly, probably you can tell it's a real highlight of not only my career but my life. I got to do some pretty fantastic things, including being an expat, living abroad on behalf of Burton, living in Beijing, taking my family, snowboarding about 10 kilometers from the North Korean border, things like that. So yeah, pretty cool.
Well, you got many stories that you could share. All right, let's keep moving. Sorry,
Yeah,
now that
sorry,
you just said that. No, I may drill into other stuff. I learned to ski upstate New York, Hunter, Bel Air, those mountains, stuff like that. But
and you know how to turn on ice. Then
yes,
you know how to hold an edge.
yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving here
Okay.
because I'll allow us to keep on skiing. To be honest with you.
Well,
Then you
Stowe's
moved to
opening
the
today,
Franklin.
actually. So we're off to a great start here in the Northeast, for northern New England anyway. It's been snowing for the last 3 weeks.
All right, let's jump to DIGGS and the operational excellence. You don't have to follow anything, just what comes to mind. How do you define it, et cetera?
Sure. I got involved with DIGGS about 18 months ago, a little over 18 months now. Was sort of in between and had left Burton for something, was recruited into something that didn't quite work out the way we thought. Learned a lot in that experience, but was looking for my next. DIGGS came along, probably a little smaller than I was in my mind looking for. I was down the road on another opportunity to kind of get back into apparel and other things on a pretty, again, big global sort of supply chain role. But there was something about this opportunity and certainly an entrepreneurial spirit that I've always had, and I love good product and so on. And so I jumped at the chance to get involved. I quickly figured out just how little operational excellence existed, and set about really trying to simplify it. For example, I mean, this business, not quite 20 million in revenue, so just give you a sense of the turnover scale, but had 5 different nodes where they had products, so 5 different warehouses, 5 different, no connectivity, no system-to-system connectivity, so really no idea of how much inventory or even the valuation, certainly when it came to month end, because they didn't know how much inventory they had. There was no demand planning. There was really no planning function at all. Sourcing in China, which was certainly very familiar to me. And really, nothing on final mile, no negotiated contracts with either FedEx or UPS, all kinds of low-hanging fruit. So I set about to really to work to not only clean that up, but to also lay down a sort of some tracks that would really, not only be short-term impact, but certainly looking around the corner where we wanted to go, and to be able to focus on operational excellence and define what it meant for our business. And so for me, it was really about just trying to simplify how we were doing things every day. To also, I showed up, everybody told me that our system sucks. This thing's never worked. It doesn't work. Nobody knows where everything is. We don't know we can't process an order. We have to send them over to the warehouse manually. And I'm like, well, the system was fine. The problem was there was no scope of work document. There was no planning on how, there's no understanding of how it worked, the system, or how it needed to be applied to this business. So the user
Hey, can we
group, what's that?
pause for just a second, system-wise, so people can draw something in their head? Were the 5 DCs or warehouses 5 different 3PLs?
Yes.
Okay. And did they have their own WMSs?
Yes. In some case, one of them was a mom and pop shop that was basically pencil and paper near the Port of Long Beach. But yes,
Alright, and then I wanna draw this back to corporate. When you say "the system," were there integrations from those WMSs into your system and then classify your system?
well, they thought there were integrations, but
Yeah.
they were very basic connectivity that weren't really mapped to do anything but send an order over, transfer an order over, and then bring a tracking number back. That was basically the extent of the integration.
And is a lot of this parcel, or was any
Yeah,
of this LTL?
mostly
It's all
parcel. So
parcel?
this business is heavily
Okay.
digitally native, heavily direct to consumer. We certainly do Amazon FBA, and we've got a couple larger chains. The big box in pet, where we move some product in bulk or when it's not direct import. But yeah, so mostly parcel
Okay,
and
perfect.
primarily nearshoring, Section 321, de minimis on the border, Tijuana, Windsor.
Yep,
Um,
I'm following you.
yeah,
And then back to corporate,
yeah,
what is the you may not wanna say that's intellectual property at times, but what is the system as you guys talk
yeah. I
about
don't
it?
want to
Is it
name the
an
system.
ERP?
It was a. It certainly wasn't. It wasn't something like SAP, or it wasn't an ERP solution. It was a pretty simple system, sort of inventory management, inventory control, um, sophisticated enough for this business in terms of back end order processing, supply allocation, functionality, and so on, and with the proper integration and some API keys, you can link up to your warehouse and you can exchange information that was really the basics that you need to manage a business of this scale, and also. I figured out that the system was capable of being scaled up too. So I established that the system was fine. The problem was it was poorly scoped. There was really little to no training. So really the user group didn't understand how to use the tool it had. And so by using it improperly or not very effectively, all the data we had was pretty much corrupt. You couldn't really use anything. So I ended up last January this year, December, January, and then we went live in February on a full reboot. You just kind of had to rebuild it, put a little bit of connectivity in, including getting inventory feeds every day, so we could do a reconciliation system to system on the inventory levels and so on. So nothing, that anybody probably listening out there can't recognize and doesn't understand, but a really important piece of fixing the business, at least on the supply chain and operating side.
A lot of opportunities, if you will.
Oh yeah. No, tons of opportunities. Yeah, it was for me, it was honestly the first 4 to 6 months was just prioritizing, which ones I could get after and trying to figure, the most impactful and the biggest bang for the buck, if you will, or the ones that were most critical that we simply had to solve before we got on to other ones. Right. It was
And were they more, were some of those priorities, I'm just spitballing here,
yeah.
integrations with the WMSs to get some type of inventory? Was it transportation?
It was mostly, yeah, it was definitely integration with the warehouses. Well, first, at the same time, sort of concurrently, I was trying to figure out which warehouses did I want to be in. I knew I wanted to scale down to one ultimately, or maybe one and a half with a little returns, sort of returns processing kind of thing, which is ultimately what we've gotten to. We're all but closed in Tijuana, and that will then make building number 4 being closed and will be fully consolidated in Windsor. So we're going to continue to nearshore, even though de minimis is not available. But from a from a cash management standpoint, that deferred duty, even though the world has changed around us on the tariff side, obviously, just being able to defer that duty and then also looking to grow our business in Canada, it's giving us inventory flexibility and a number of positive, contributions to still stay on the border, even though Section 320, 321 is no longer available.
So marketing's not a bottleneck by any means. It's really a lot of the supply chain, and I'm setting us up for number 5 on the agenda here.
Did you say marketing?
Yeah.
Well, uh, efficient spend is just as important in supply chain as it is in marketing, right?
Well, I always refer to this and it always gets a whole nother conversation going, but I do want to get to tariffs in a second. But
Yeah, no problem.
I've always considered marketing as a piece of the supply chain in the sense of, well, you got to spend and you got to supply customers and all that's got to
Sure.
roll into the bigger scheme of things. So your point there, marketing is still a challenge, or no, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, I mean, marketing right now, in terms of it, it's just being smarter in how we spend our marketing dollars and using, some key data metrics and so on and measuring almost hour to hour right now is what we're in and making sure that the way we're allocating and pushing our ad spend is generating, you probably know all the acronyms, right? From MER and ROAS and all the way that you measure, sort of effective and cost effective ad spend in web driven sales and conversion to bottom line. I mean, that's where we're focused now is not only having the data, but using it to make decisions every day and to make sure that we're, we're adjusting because we are making adjustments on the fly because the world is so up and down, right, around us.
Totally. And the reason I didn't mean to whipsaw you that way,
No, that's okay.
meaning with marketing, so often we'll spend ourselves sitting in this. Actually, I'm going from feedback I received and multiple emails yesterday. I spend so much time in the supply chain, the integrations and everything we're going, and people want to understand what does the marketing look like because that's part of the supply chain into the company and trying to understand those challenges. And to your point, refining that ad spend and maybe more efficiency and such with that would help. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, but
All
you're
right.
right. I mean, it's circular. At the end of the day, everything feeds into the next. It all goes to the bottom line and bottom line results, and that's ultimately the way most people measure success in a for-profit business, right?
Yep. So with talking about marketing, we've talked about the warehouses, some of the integrations and
Yeah.
those challenges. Let's jump to the and I'm going to tell the audience what I read and another reason why I want Israel on the show here. He went to Washington D.C. for a U.S. Chamber of Commerce event, correct? Put on by UPS.
Yeah, that's right.
And tweak any of that. And you had some what I would say a good, not debate, but a spirited discussion, I think were the terms. It was in and around tariffs and trade in general.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that because that gets into leadership challenges. And it sounds like that is one of your big ones. And you've only been there 18 months, but you've been dealing with a pretty good headwind there.
Yeah, it's a serious headwind. I mean, we could probably spend an hour just talking about that. Yeah, so I got invited by UPS and their president of global, I think it's global public policy or sort of the group that really tracks what's happening around the world in terms of regulatory requirements and for them as sort of the global mover of freight along with Purple, FedEx, and what the changes are, not only here in the U.S. but in terms of importing, but also just crossing borders because it's not just about importing into the U.S. right now, where all the upheaval and trade policies have been happening. So they invited a cross section of customers, everything from billion-dollar publicly traded companies that you'd know to I clearly ended up being this quote unquote small business, sort of down at the corner of the table. And there was maybe 20, 25 people, including a senior official from the Mexican consulate, their director of economics, and a deputy secretary from the Department of Commerce, current administration appointee, a senior leader at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They were sort of the three featured guests, and nice dinner and et cetera with small talk and so on, and then turned into a formal program of really just going around the room and exchanging impacts and sort of some Q&A, but really sharing what's been occurring in 2025 around trade is impacting all of us. And I was saved for last and offered some pretty candid points of view and feedback and some really honest impacts on what a business our size. And I say our size, I think realistically, 10 to 50 million in revenue, or maybe even smaller, certainly even smaller, because there are a lot of smaller businesses than ours being impacted by this and that source globally and have been able to maybe establish a business or take a dream concept and an idea they've always had and turn it in, monetize it, turn it into something viable. It's because they've been able to source either exclusively outside of the US or combine, component sourced outside the US with things that they get here and final assembly, make whatever they're making and have a good business. But the trade policy changes and the sort of chaotic nature of them and the just constant flux and back and forth and lack of clear roadmap or really outcome and strategic roadmap to try and follow and anticipate what might come next has left us your show's called Unlocked. We feel really locked, not unlocked, because we're trying to be nimble. We're correcting some things that are self-inflicted that we know needed to be fixed with our business, and we're always looking to continuously improve and make changes. So there's things that we can control. But when the things that you can't control have such an effect on the bottom line, it's not only infuriating, but it's really scary. And so I just really shared that point of view for a business like ours and doing it. We don't have the capital to go out and build a plant here in the US. I'd love to. I think it'd be great. I'd be proud to do that. But we're not in a position to do that. And the notion that, a manufacturing renaissance is going to be quick enough to sweep up a business or a brand like ours is just naive. It's not a reality for many of the operators like myself, and especially small businesses, to be able to sustain until that point in time, if and when it actually happens, which we could debate that. And so that's just really what I shared. And I shared it from the standpoint of I'm not sure what to do. We're making moves and we're doing things, but in 90 days, I could look foolish with a decision to move our supply chain, our sourcing from one country to another, or to decide that de minimis is never coming back. So I'm going to move my fulfillment back into the US, and it could come back tomorrow with the unpredictable nature of things right now. So anyway, I know that's a lot, but that's kind of what the general theme and sharing was about. And I looked around the room, and after we broke up from the dinner, and the number of people who came up and talked to me, including the administration official, I knew that I wasn't alone in my thinking and that, these experiences are shared. So that's what I tried to convey in my post on LinkedIn, which I think you said you saw. So
Yeah, well articulated. And did you get to that end of that dinner and you were kind of like, oh, fuck, maybe I said too much. And then they all start coming over and talking to you. Then you're like, I'm not alone here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I certainly, there was a moment where I sort of decided to go for it a little bit more and with candor, and especially the treasury or the commerce official turned and was looking right at me. So there was a moment where I thought, all right. But when he came up after and shook my hand and he gave me his card, and we've since exchanged emails and so on, I knew that at the end of the day, for me, it's just what we need more of, quite frankly, not to get too off. You need more of that in life, but certainly with what's going on in business right now and sort of around policy and so on, we need to be sharing and talking more about real impacts and not romanticizing what we think or hope the outcome would be, to the extent that we get into scenarios that just aren't real.
Yeah, and this is what my thoughts were after I read it and after listening to you. You're getting to the heart of small and medium business.
Yeah.
And that was in the article as well. And damn it, that is the beef of the country. I don't want to get into politics. Well, hell, we can get into a little bit of politics, but small to medium business is the meat of the country. And for you to stand up and say real facts and that candid conversation is needed. And they need to hear that continuously to realize the meat of the country is being impacted And with that said, let's get to the impact numbers.
Well, let
I'm
me,
going to throw.
if I could just offer one little thing to what you just said, Teddy,
Go ahead.
about the meat or the heart of this economy in terms of small to medium sized businesses and importing.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly where I got it right now. I think I got it, this fact, from another amazing brand, a woman whose name is Haley Pavone, and you may have seen her on Capitol Hill. And so she's one of the, it's a footwear brand, a really unique innovation. And she went viral right way back in early when, around or in March and April, with some, sort of like started with like an Instagram post or Facebook post about, sort of tariffs for dummies, sort of tariff 101 and why these duties were so impactful and how it impacted a business like hers, which is actually, according to her, quite similar in size to ours. Anyway, she offered up a data point, which is that almost 80% of the importers, so not the imported value into the US, but the actual entities, importers of record into the United States, employ 20 or fewer people.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I can't give you exactly that source to go fact check it, but that's where I got it from her. I saw it on one of her things. Haley Pavone, you can follow her on LinkedIn and follow her on Instagram. She's amazing. Not only what she's built and her, from nothing. It's a classic entrepreneurial story, but, she's had the courage to go out and really challenge this in a public space. And she's tried to make lemons from lemonade by, not only saying what's really going on, but also trying to help educate people every day about what this truly means.
So I
Pavone, yeah, Pavone,
oh my God.
Passion Footwear, it's called.
Hold on. And I'll put that in the description for the audience
Okay.
because it's speaking to not just my comments, but the reason why you needed to be candid with that
Yeah.
audience in DC. Footwear. All right, we'll move on there.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Technology.
Just one of my favorite
No,
data point.
I love that shit. That's what I want you to do, man. You got to like jerk me around a little bit. So if you want to make points, make the freaking point.
You said we weren't going to
I,
follow the agenda. We're not, which is fine with me. I like
yeah,
that.
so
Actually,
I'm good. I'm
free
good
form.
at that, man.
All good.
If you ever watch Mike Rowe on his podcast, he's the same way. It's just like it's a good convert. Mike Rowe,
I used
30
to
Jobs.
I used to watch a show. I have to go check out his podcast.
Yeah, his podcast's pretty cool. His producer is Chuck, who's a high school buddy, been part of his career the whole time.
Mhm.
But Chuck's always bitching at him because it's supposed to be like a 40-minute conversation with a guest, and it always ends up being an
They
hour
get
and
yeah,
15
just
minutes.
yeah. Well,
It's people talking and
I was
having
gonna
a
say, for
decent
people
time
who
with.
like to talk like me, it's easy to get going and time flies, right?
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, I'll put
Okay.
the Haley stuff in there. Um, Technology adoption. Where do you see this going? And I own an AI company, all right, and a startup AI company. I've been implementing AI in the supply chain space. Lately, 2017, 2018, 2019 became heavy in, 21, 22. Here's what I get in these podcasts from a lot of leaders. Two things. One, I hear them start talking about AI, and what they're really explaining is basically software as a service, not AI based in a large language model. And there's no problem with that because we don't know how to talk about it yet,
Hmm.
especially at that director, VP, and above level, because we don't know how to apply it. And then that's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it is, do you have AI projects that are solving some of your bottlenecks? Or if you don't, is it because you don't understand it, or you haven't decided on what I got to channel in on?
Well, it's funny. My 2 o'clock today is with a young guy who's working for us, and the meeting is our biweekly AI and digital product update. So he is really focused on looking at how we can, as a business, incorporate AI, or how we potentially should down the road. I'll just say, for me, I'm old enough that I used The phone in my house growing up had a long cord on it, and I had to try and go in another room and shut the door when I wanted to call her, call a girl and not tip my mom off that I was on the phone, right? So I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I certainly understand and I get the efficacy of AI here already, even though it's, I think, infancy stage, how it can impact, supply chain or operations. I mean, we've incorporated a little bit, like a lot of places are, I think, into customer service, and trying to simplify that and to just try to funnel some of the inquiries, not just to see, oh, could we the inevitable, could we reduce our head count if we use AI, but also to try and be more responsive to customers, right? To be quicker to give information back. And I've had my own personal experiences lately with a couple just things where I'm asking questions and so I get that. I think that's sort of a natural thing. I think the other thing where I definitely am looking at where it's going to help us is really on forecast modeling, on our inventory planning and just basic planning, right? And using to be able to
I
aggregate
think I
data.
lost you.
You lose me?
Oh, wait for a second. There you go. You're back.
I'm
I
back.
think. Yeah. You're not back, but your voice is back. Oh, you're good. I think it might be my Starlink. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah,
But
my
forecasting and
network looks
modeling.
pretty good. Yeah, forecasting, just planning, whether it's demand planning, supply planning, just forecast modeling. I mean, it's sort of seems like a no-brainer to be able to, uh, to aggregate data and to really pretty quickly and easily turn it into some modeling that is informative and directive too. So that seems like a natural place for a business like ours to look to AI. Um,
Do you have the same challenges? It's tough to get the conversation understood. I'm saying the wrong words. Getting to understand it so you know where to apply it. Is
yeah,
that a big part of the challenge?
yeah. I think
It,
exactly what we're trying to do now. And fortunately, we've got we've got a real talent and somebody who's really tuned into this, and has really initiated the conversation with our leadership team about looking for ways that we can use almost like self-designed role. But certainly right now, what the update will be today is really, again, sort of what he's learned, what he's looked at, where he thinks we could incorporate and apply things, and then seeing if that application, you know, really, and then trying to poke holes in it a little bit, right? And see, does it make sense? What it really is, the benefit really there is the sort of, the old adage of juice worth the squeeze. So that's kind of
yep.
where it's pretty early adoption phase, I guess, for us in a business this size, but I can see some value coming pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's well, the other part is just getting the right team involved and usually I ask the question, if you've done something, do you consider the project a failure? And then usually I get the response of 95% of the time they fail. At least that's what the media reports. And I can tell you the answer to that from a project management and me as a program manager, the answer is yes. You're probably between 80 to 95% failure rate. And if no, tell me that. Or the other side of it is why do we have such a high failure rate? And there's two reasons that I keep watching from my own experience and I listen to on a zillion YouTube videos. We're trying to do too much too quick. We're trying to automate off of not structured data. And this is all about automation and tacit or repetitious. And the second one is we try to do too much too quick. We should get in the frame here. And instead of like perfecting that one task, like let's just say forecasting, a lot of times forecasting fails because the data in is shit data.
Well, it's only as good
It's
as what you
not,
put into it. Absolutely.
you know this
Yeah.
over your career.
Yeah.
And if it's not cleansed or structured, get on the boat of failure, but at least you're going to fail and then learn that. And the whole people involved in it will never forget that. But
Right.
structured data is one reason for failure. The second one is too much, too quick. But if you do those quick little things, you pick up like, and then so let me get back. I was making a point and asking a question all at once. I'm famous for doing that.
It's okay.
Any real AI projects on your list, or have you done any?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've incorporated it and certainly into customer service so far, right? With
Yep.
Q&A. So inbound inquiries and questions, and then, so they at least get immediate responses, using it to sort of set an expectation on what the follow-up would be and so on, or hopefully satisfy some of those inquiries. Um, and then we've got this project that I'm meeting at a little bit later today is where we're reviewing things that are in progress, not really yet rolled out, but looking at what we potentially could do. Um, we've implemented a few things. Um, the to your point about 85 to 90% failure rate. The nice thing right now about, I'll put it this way: the things we're looking at in AI, the ones that get me excited are the ones that don't have a lot of capital outlay, right? That if they're sort of low or relatively low or no cost, let's give it a shot, because this is also a
Yeah.
business that's still very small. We're lean and mean in many ways. We're setting up and scaling for growth, but we're also, when you're nimble and you can quickly, and everybody's can get on the same Zoom, and you bring everybody into the tent, so to speak, and you can review some action and see, is this working? Is it not? And make quick decisions. And also, one of the best lessons I ever learned, I listened to a guy who built a wildly successful business in Vermont, sold it to GE years ago, decades ago. I went and listened to him speak one time at a Burlington business, luncheon thing. And there was a Q&A, and somebody asked him, like, what's the number one lesson in business? And he didn't hesitate. He said, you gotta be able to call a dog a dog. Like, if sometimes if it's not working, do not keep throwing money at it. So,
Yep.
I think that's what we're able to do. We can try some stuff and then quickly assess if it's working or worthwhile, and not be afraid to stop if it's not.
Dude, I love that. You truly do have that entrepreneurial spirit, but wise.
Well, it's because
But wise. That takes a
I
few
fucked
years.
up enough times today.
So I got two last questions for you. Do you have an effort going for the culture, developing an AI culture? I'm going to give an example. Are you familiar with Dan Martell? Dan Martell Adventures,
I
or
went to
Adventures,
college with a
Adventure.
guy named Dan Martell, but I don't think it's the same one. So
This dude's Canadian. He ended up in San Diego and San Francisco with that.
nope. But
Anyways,
I'll write him down and check him out.
yeah, I can send you his YouTube channel. The point is was a developer, ended up being he's running $100 million business. His point is this to his entire staff: AI gets started with an AI culture. It's things like getting people to start using ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of these, and their mind starts thinking in these areas, and it's super effing cheap. ChatGPT, $20. And when you get used to like just putting in stuff, I can tell you I ended up essentially building a fitness tracking app for myself at the gym just by me talking to it. And it's giving me back these motivational things. Like like this morning, I'm like, dude, that really sucked, but I added 10 pounds. It's a stride forward. I might have used an extra little spicy word in there, and it spit back some, you did great, all this other stuff. But here's my point: culture. And if leadership starts helping with the culture, and I'm going to give an example, the next time somebody comes back to you as a C-level person, did you run that through chat? Did you run that through Gemini? In other words, give me a one pager, don't procrastinate, but run that through chat, GPT, and give me something that is a one pager that we can talk to. It's a more efficient conversation. It'll help you think through stuff, and that culture gets started with that kind of behavior.
So my simple answer is yes. So, and I'll give our CEO credit for that. I'll just say he's a generation behind me, so a little bit younger than I am,
Okay,
but he is way bullish on what you just described. And
sweet.
so culturally, it's being encouraged almost. I mean, that's why it's he and I and the young guy that I told you about, at 2 o'clock today, in our sort of AI exploration, and how we can use it. I'm probably, candidly, I need to look to adopt it more readily. I
Yep.
think myself personally, and I get it. Like, I can see why people are so excited about it, but yes,
What's effective?
it is effective. It's remarkably effective. It's almost scary, quite frankly, in some ways, but I think I think the key is to really think about, like, what you just articulated. How do you
Culture.
want to, the application of it? How can it help and bolster your operation or your organization? Try and think about that first before just trying it, right? Um,
Can I give you an example of, and it has to do with you, is why I'm going to say this. All I do is put in chat, I say, tell me more about Maynard. I'll say that.
yeah,
Maynard and DIGGS.
yeah,
Give me a profile on both. And then I did that days ago. And then I see it's on my calendar and I need some recollection of what it was. And all I say is, take me back to Maynard and his company.
wow.
And it threw it up to me and I'm ready to go in like 4 minutes because now I've already read your profile once. It throws me all the way up to the top and I'm ready for a meeting with you to talk through it. I don't need, I'm not using a lot of time,
Yeah,
and it gives me quick recollection of things like that. And I can go on and on because
sure.
I have evolved over the last 6 months to a year to use it all the time. Anyways,
Does it help with
last question.
procrastination? Is that what you're getting?
All right, you got me there. I'm going to tell the story. It's a 30-second story. I have somebody on one of my accounts. Her name's Christy Clapp. She's retiring after 29 years with the company that I work with right now. And uh, we've become friends with her and everything. And there's things are going back and forth. And somebody didn't tell somebody about her retirement, and not good. So we're in our Teams chat and I go, you didn't send out that email yet for your retirement? And she's typing like this dissertation of bull. So I go in chat, give me a retirement email that's going to go out to my coworkers and the broad audience at a large company. She didn't get done typing that. I already had the answer and ready to upload. As soon as she got done with her 2 sentences, I uploaded and said, quit procrastinating. Please send this out by the end of the day to benefit
All right.
us before I get my tail in trouble again.
All right.
And
I'm
guess what
in.
happened this morning?
Yep.
And anyways, she just says, I know, I'm just a horrible writer. I go, well, now you got an assistant
Yeah.
that you can use
Yeah.
in
It's funny.
retirement.
It's funny. I've been told that I'm a decent writer and I enjoy writing. So part of me is hesitant to do that because I kind of enjoy putting pieces together. However, I can also be a procrastinator. Your anecdote is resonating. So,
All right, we'll bring this plane to a landing. To the audience, appreciate the time. And Mr. Maynard, Israel.
yeah, zero word.
Israel, I really appreciate your time. Your candor is just a good back and forth. And I think there's a lot of value packed in this episode that the audience is going to like. I'll put
I
your
hope so.
if you want your email in the description, we can do that, but I'll definitely put the link to your guys' website in there.
Yeah, you can put my
And
email in. It's fine. I don't mind.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll go.
Hopefully your audience can find something useful in there, and I appreciate the opportunity.
You're listening to Supply Chain Unlocked. Get exclusive insights from industry leaders on overcoming